In a world dominated by noise, silence has become a rare and undervalued treasure. We live in an age where every thought, every emotion, and every fleeting moment is broadcasted for the world to see. Social media thrives on constant updates. Conversations are filled with interruptions, and silence is often mistaken for weakness or disinterest. But the ancient Stoics understood the profound strength found in silence, the power to observe without reacting, to reflect without judgment, and to resist the urge to fill every void with words. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength. This strength is amplified when we embrace silence. In silence, we gain the space to process our thoughts without external influence. We learn to listen more deeply, not just to others, but to ourselves. When we step back from the noise and the need to react, we begin to understand the true nature of things. Silence allows clarity to emerge from chaos. Many of history's greatest thinkers practiced the art of silence. Leonardo da Vinci would spend hours in quiet contemplation, believing that creativity emerged from stillness. Albert Einstein once said that the mind works best in solitude. Silence is not just an absence of sound. It is a presence of deeper understanding. But silence is not easy. It requires strength to hold back when others expect you to speak. It requires wisdom to know when silence is more powerful than words. Silence can be uncomfortable because it forces us to confront our inner world, our doubts, fears, and insecurities. But within that discomfort lies the path to growth. In the modern world, where attention is currency and words are weapons, the ability to remain silent becomes an act of defiance, a quiet rebellion against chaos. Silence becomes a shield, a source of power, and a pathway to wisdom. Words have power, but silence often carries more weight. The ability to remain silent when others expect a reaction is one of the highest forms of strength. When someone insults you, the instinctive response is to fight back, to defend yourself. But what happens when you respond with silence? Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught that we should focus on controlling our reactions rather than try and control the actions of others. He wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Silence robs others of the power to control you. When you meet criticism or hostility with silence, you refuse to engage in emotional battle. Your silence signals that you are unaffected, that you refuse to be pulled into the chaos of others' emotions. Consider a heated argument. When one person remains calm and silent while the other rages, the silent person holds a power. The one who remains quiet demonstrates emotional control and inner strength. Silence creates space for reflection and often causes the other person to reconsider their words. Silence also protects you from saying things you'll regret. Words spoken in anger or haste often create long-lasting damage. By holding back, you give yourself the opportunity to reflect, to assess the situation objectively, and to choose your response wisely. But silence is not about passivity or weakness. It's about intentional restraint. It's about recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, and that sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Most people listen to respond, not to understand. In conversation, we often think about what we're going to say next rather than truly hearing the other person. This is where silence becomes transformative. When you remain silent and listen fully, you open the door to deeper connection. People feel heard, truly heard, when you give them the space to express themselves without interruption or judgment. This creates trust and emotional safety. The Stoics believed that listening was a form of wisdom. Seneca wrote, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Silence in conversation doesn't mean disengagement. It means presence. It means resisting the urge to fill pauses or to correct others. It means giving the other person the gift of being heard. This is a rare gift in a world that thrives on noise and distraction. Silence allows you to read between the lines, to notice body language, tone, and emotion. What is left unsaid often reveals more than what is spoken. When you cultivate the habit of deep listening, you become more perceptive, more empathetic, and more insightful. In personal relationships, silence can repair rifts and heal wounds. Sometimes, the most comforting thing you can offer someone is not advice or reassurance, but your quiet presence. Silence communicates understanding and acceptance more deeply than any words could. We live in a world that demands explanations. When you make a decision, people expect you to justify it. When you remain silent in the face of conflict, people expect you to explain yourself. But the Stoics understood that true strength lies in the ability to remain silent, even when pressured to speak. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. When you know your values and intentions, you don't need to explain them to others." Silence signals confidence. It shows that you are secure in your choices and not swayed by the opinions of others. There's power in mystery. When you explain yourself too much, you give others power over you. Silence protects your inner peace and prevents others from manipulating you through guilt or misunderstanding. Consider how powerful it feels when someone remains calm and composed under pressure. Their silence radiates strength and authority. They don't feel the need to prove themselves because they know who they are. Silence is a form of self-respect. When you refuse to explain or justify yourself unnecessarily, you affirm your own worth. You acknowledge that not everyone deserves access to your thoughts and motivations. Silence is a boundary, a shield that protects your peace. In the noise and chaos of daily life, clarity becomes elusive. We are constantly bombarded with information, news updates, social media feeds, endless conversations. Our minds are overstimulated, making it difficult to hear our own thoughts. This is why silence, intentional, reflective silence, is essential for finding clarity. The Stoics practiced daily reflection. Marcus Aurelius would write in his meditations each evening, reflecting on his thoughts, actions, and decisions. He understood that the mind needs quiet to process and grow. In silence, we make sense of our experiences. We uncover the lessons hidden beneath the surface of daily life. Silence allows us to distance ourselves from emotional reactions and see situations objectively. When we sit quietly and allow our thoughts to settle, the truth often reveals itself. What seemed urgent and overwhelming loses its grip. In silence, we realize that most problems are not as dire as they first appear. Reflection in silence also helps us strengthen our inner compass. Instead of relying on others for validation or guidance, we begin to trust ourselves. Silence allows us to hear the quiet voice of intuition, the inner wisdom that often gets drowned out by external noise. But silent reflection requires practice. The mind resists stillness. Thoughts will race, memories will surface, and discomfort will arise. This is normal. The goal is not to silence the mind completely, but to observe without attachment, to sit in the quiet and let thoughts pass like clouds across the sky. Through regular silent reflection, you begin to see patterns in your thoughts, your relationships, and your choices. You begin to understand your strengths and your blind spots. And with that understanding comes the power to make better decisions and to live with greater purpose. Letting go is one of life's hardest lessons. We hold on to resentment, disappointment, and anger because it gives us a sense of control. But the Stoics taught that true strength lies in the ability to release, to let go of what we cannot control. And silence is the gateway to letting go. When someone wrongs you, the natural response is to seek justice or retaliation. But silence teaches us a different path. When you respond with silence instead of anger, you take back control. You refuse to let the actions of others dictate your emotional state. Epictetus reminded us, We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. Silence allows you to sit with the discomfort, hurt, or betrayal without reacting impulsively. It creates an emotional space to process your feelings and to choose how you want to respond. When you let go of the need to explain or defend yourself, you reclaim your peace. Letting go also applies to internal struggles. We carry the weight of self-criticism and regret long after the moment has passed. Silence gives you the space to forgive yourself, to release the grip of the past, and allow healing to begin. Imagine sitting by a quiet stream, watching leaves float past. Each leaf represents a thought, a memory, or an emotion. In silence, you allow them to drift by without holding on to them. You observe without attachment. You let go, not with force, but with quiet acceptance. Conflict is an inevitable part of human relationships. Misunderstandings, hurt feelings, and opposing opinions create tension. The typical response is to defend, justify, or escalate. But the Stoics knew that silence is often the most powerful tool in resolving conflict. When you meet anger with silence, you change the dynamic. Anger thrives on reaction. When you refuse to engage emotionally, you take away the fuel that drives conflict. Seneca advised, "A quarrel is quickly ended when deserted by one party. There is no battle unless there is someone to fight." Silence creates space for the other person to reflect. When someone lashes out in anger and is met with calm silence, they are forced to confront their own emotions. Without the distraction of an argument, they may begin to reconsider their position. Silence also prevents you from saying things you might regret. In the heat of an argument, it's easy to speak words that cause long-term damage. By choosing silence, you give yourself time to cool down and respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. But silence is not about avoidance. After the emotional storm has passed, silence allows for thoughtful communication. You can approach the conflict from a place of calm rather than defensiveness. You can listen without judgment and respond with clarity. In relationships, silence becomes a signal of emotional maturity. It shows that you are not ruled by impulse or ego. It creates a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Silence is powerful not only because it allows you to hold back, but because it sharpens the moments when you do choose to speak. When you rarely speak, your words carry more weight. The Stoics believed in speaking only when necessary and always with purpose. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Let your words be few and well considered." When you practice silence, you develop the ability to assess whether your words are needed or if silence is the better response. You stop speaking to fill awkward gaps or to seek approval. Instead, you speak with intention. Silence gives you control over your message. It allows you to avoid emotional outbursts and to communicate from a place of strength. When you remain calm and deliberate, others are more likely to listen and respect what you say. In leadership, silence is often more effective than long speeches. A thoughtful pause before responding demonstrates confidence and authority. It signals that you are not reactive, that you have considered your response carefully. By choosing when to speak, you transform your words into a tool of influence rather than a source of noise. Silence is not just a philosophical practice. It has measurable psychological benefits. Studies have shown that regular periods of silence reduce stress, improve focus, and enhance emotional regulation. In silence, the brain shifts from processing external stimuli to internal reflection. The mind enters a state of rest similar to meditation, allowing it to recharge and reset. Neuroscientists have found that silence increases the production of new brain cells in the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for learning and memory. Silence also lowers cortisol levels, reducing the physical and emotional symptoms of stress. Silence restores balance to the nervous system. When you sit quietly, focusing on your breath or the sounds of nature, the body's fight or flight response calms. The parasympathetic nervous system activates, promoting relaxation and emotional clarity. The Stoics understood this long before modern science confirmed it. They knew that silence was not emptiness. It was a state of being where the mind and body could find peace. Silence connects you to your deeper self. In silence, you strip away the noise of external expectations and reconnect with your inner truth. In silence, you discover that most of life's answers are already within you. When you quiet the mind, you hear the subtle voice of intuition. You discover your true values, your authentic desires, and your inner strength. The Stoics taught that wisdom is not found in external achievements, but in the quiet mastery of the self. Through silence, you learn to trust yourself, to detach from the chaos of the world, and to live with purpose and peace. Silence is not weakness. It is a foundation of strength. It is a quiet power that shapes the mind, sharpens the soul, and changes everything. If you found value in the power of silence and how it can transform your life, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Crit Wisdom for more insights on Stoicism, personal growth, and mastering the art of life. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How has silence helped you find clarity and strength? Remember, wisdom begins where noise ends. Subscribe now and start your journey toward inner peace and strength through the wisdom of silence.